At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Dave, and it appears we actually have some breaking news here. Sorry to interrupt the normal intro of the show, but it looks like today Helene Bergeau has left Wizards of the Coast. She's stepping down from her position as Director of Global Organized Play. And, this was just announced like a few hours ago, technically.
I thought you were definitely going Elvis there. Like, she has left the building. Like, I thought for sure that's where you were going. And she probably did leave whatever building
probably
she was in before going home.
Yeah, as people do normally at the end of a day.
But yeah, this seemed shocking. Most people in the community have reacted, well, the pro community has reacted with shock.
It was announced on Twitter, and like if you look at all the replies to that tweet, it's everyone just being like, you will be sorely missed, and you know, just kind of echoing that sort of sentiment from nearly everyone prominent in the pro community.
Yeah, I guess she wasn't at the Pro Tour, which she normally is at those. So I don't know. We don't really have much information beyond she's stepping down, so we don't know if this was a force out or if this is on her own, you know.
Yeah. Any sort of like opinions that we'd have would just be like pure conjecture. So, and you know, this is something that like we're never going to know why, and nor do we have like a right to know why either. But it is kind of interesting.
But I got to know.
I mean, we said before the cast that like we don't know how much a director of global organized play will be needed going forward with how they are doing their organized play, or maybe this is just, you know, a stepping stone for Helene to move on to something else, as many people do with their careers. So at least you know, Mike and I have directly spoken with her at Gen Con.
And she was very nice.
She's a very, very nice person, and we wish her all the best to whatever endeavors she chooses to go on. Hopefully she has a nice, you know, a little bit of a vacation before starting something new. Get to, you know, kind of cleanse her soul of, you know, us magic cretins that have, you know.
Helene got her groove back? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Nothing of that nature. Just like a nice, you know, a cleansing of, you know, magic, general ickiness, I would say.
Am I crazy? Isn't Soul Cleanse an MTG card?
It sounds like
Probably.
It should be.
No, I mean she did a great job for Wizards, and she'll definitely be missed. And I appreciate that she was kind of the go-to for people to like send their complaints, even if she wasn't the person that, you know, they needed to talk to.
Right.
She was always the like, oh, hit up Helene on Twitter and she'll figure it out. So
yeah,
I think, you know, I don't think I've ever heard her complain, you know, once about that. And you know, now who are we supposed to complain to? Now Worth's not there anymore. No Helene, I don't know.
I don't know who we're supposed to.
Aaron Forsythe is next in line.
I don't know who we're supposed to blame.
Oh, we can still blame her if you want to. We can just still tweet at her in regular life. Just be like, hey, why is this happening? It should be like, stop it, please. I don't even work for them anymore. Why? And then you'll get blocked.
Yeah, probably. But like I said, good luck to her and all her future endeavors. And I mean, those are big shoes to fill if someone does fill them. She was very much a corporate face of Magic the Gathering, along with people like Mark Rosewater and Aaron Forsythe, and the, you know, some of the other, you know, R&D members and the story team. So she's just as much as an impact, and she definitely influenced a lot of people. And she was a strong, like, you know, female voice and component of a lot of people. I know that there are a lot of women in Magic that, you know, definitely looked up to Helene and definitely had, you know, somewhat close relationships with her, like, you know, Aaron Campbell, people like that. And, you know, it really sucks to see someone so prominent from the business side of WotC kind of get pulled away. So And I think that's an important thing, representation, all that jazz. So that is a maybe an impact people aren't necessarily seeing. So hopefully we can, have people that rise up and become that ambassador to some of the demographics that are lacking from our community.
I do hope, and I agree with you, and I do hope that whoever does take, if there is that position or if it's changed a little bit, I think the one thing Helene really was good at was like enjoying the game. Does that make sense? Like she would go to these major events. She was always having fun. She was doing this. She wasn't like sitting in an office. She was like traveling to all the places. She was actually there listening to people. And I think like for that kind of position, I think for a lot of other companies, that is a position where they don't leave the office. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I heard it was good. Like she's like, no, I'm here.
And she was always great about taking feedback and really.
And as we said, even it wasn't her feedback, like for her,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, and she also was a good face for a lot of not well liked announcements, and I think she handled those as best as anyone could. So
yeah,
sad to see her go.
100%, but wish her all the best. That breaking news was the only real community news worth talking about from what we gathered, because it was the good old Pro Tour this weekend, and that is going to be the majority of our show. So let's just get right in. So let's start off with our winner. Everyone likes a winner, right? So Gerry Thompson, one, the only.
Gerry. I know that's usually in a different context, but I think it works here.
That's true. The Tombstone Pizza aficionado has
secondary shout out to Mishra's Photoshop on fire this weekend.
Oh yeah, very
just gotta say,
absolutely
on fire.
Just hit after hit, most certainly. But he won, Pro Tour, the Pro Tour Nashville. And it was with Mono Black Zombies. So a deck that was gaining steam on Magic Online a bit.
We talked about it pretty extensively on here.
Yeah, for sure. So some people may have missed it, but at your end step, all the pulse.
Or not pulse, if you will.
Also true.
Because they're dead.
Zombies are very dead. No pulses there. And defeated Yuya Watanabe in the finals, and Yuya was on Teamer Marvel, and really, when you talk about it, those are the decks of the Pro Tour. There is a third deck that we'll talk about, but not because it won, but mainly because it lost a lot.
Well, a couple decks, but yeah.
The only other third deck that was, prominently expected to be there was Marty Vehicles.
Yeah.
And it was there, but did not convert very well.
MTG Goldfish's write-up had a really good response to this, and we'll talk about these numbers. Yes, Mardu didn't have a great conversion. It still did fine, and Wizards was actively trying not to put it on camera.
Yes.
So do not watch this Pro Tour and go, man, Mardu's dead. It's not.
No.
You'll play it a lot.
Yeah, Marty's not dead, and if anything, like we even had today on Channel Fireball, I think Mengucci put out an article about his Mardu Blue deck, and even had sideboarding advice, and he went 7-3 with the deck. So obviously a very good player, but its demise has been greatly over exaggerated. It obviously didn't have a very good Pro Tour, but doesn't mean that people are suddenly going to give up the ghost on it.
It took all 8 slots last time. Like, I think it was okay, not doing that well.
It didn't take all 8 slots. It took 6 slots.
Whatever.
It felt
was
like
close.
Yeah.
It was all top 4 slots, right? And definitely the final slots.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
it won.
Yeah. Well, if it all took all 4 slots, then of course it had to win.
It's a lot of laps for vehicles.
Yeah, this is very true. It was practically the Daytona 500 up in there. But as far as some of the other things that we had in the top 8, we had a lot of known faces. We had a lot of good players.
Multiple people that had already top 8 Pro Tours.
Correct. We had Ken Yukihiro, Mark Mueller, Chris Fennell, Christian Calcano, which. Man, you could not make the community more happy than having Gerry win and Calcano top 8, because Calcano just everyone knows who he is if you've been to a GP in your life.
He's John Everygrinder.
Yeah,
that is who he is. He is John Everygrinder. He is hitting the pavement the way that all grinders want to, and that payoff is.
it just like it's just a feel good thing for like the community, which is awesome to see, to have like these storylines develop. And then you have Eric Froelich showing up, and then Mark Tobias.
Tobias?
Tobias?
I think it's Tobias.
I think it's Tobias.
I heard it pronounced Tobias.
So he was probably like the least known player, but even he was on. He was on like the German World Magic Cup
yeah.
last year, so he was like no slouch.
Oh no, not at all.
So I mean, and they were all on teams. We didn't have any I guess
lone wolf
players.
Any Sean McLaren's showing up?
Though Gerard Fabiano did finish 9th, I believe he was on his own.
He was close,
so it was a good finish for him. But great top 8. Calcano especially, I was really excited for. If you saw his interview after he clinched his top 8, it was just like one of my all-time favorite moments on the Pro Tour. Like, he was just so overwhelmed and like emotional.
Yeah, and you just saw like everybody, like regardless of team, sort of rally behind him, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. It really made me tune into more of the Pro Tour, because I was doing stuff and like with family and stuff, and then like I'm just like, well, I need to watch this. Like, this is compelling.
Yeah. I love that kind of stuff. Like, I love it when you see players be emotional. I know we saw like Eric Froelich do this a couple years ago at one of the Pro Tours when he had clinched the top 8. Just talk about the community, and it's just these guys put a lot of time into Magic, and like most of the time they almost act like robots. It's just like, oh yeah, I won. Yeah, it's cool. It's like I love seeing like the emotion, because they're feeling it on the inside. Like it's hard not to. It's like if you put a lot of time into the game, even yourself, and you make top 8 or you win a tournament, like you feel great. Like you often don't see that from the pro community though. So
right.
I don't know. I loved it. Even BDM was he was getting a little choked up.
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
And I know those guys have known each other for a long time.
He had a lot of exciting interviews over the weekend.
I was gonna roll right into that. I mean, we have one set of the fans being emotional, and the other one being emotional in a different way with Martin Mueller, and throwing around some F-bombs.
Yeah, that was.
If you haven't seen that clip, we won't play it on here. We are family friendly now.
Nope, we can't. I don't want to. I don't want to bleep it. But now we know why the Pro Tour is going to be have a 10-minute delay, just like the Oscars, just like the Grammys, just so in case these pros get mouthy.
And the best part of it was BDM's like facial reactions to it. Just like.
If you want to see what it looked like, just find him on Twitter and.
Yeah, that's great. But they I think they did well. They had like other pictures. Like I know they took one of Mueller and BDM with like him having censor over, which was very funny. And those moments happen. I mean, even like professional sports like deals with that sometimes. So it's not shocking to see some little bit slip ups,
especially for people who's. Like English is their second language.
Oh yeah, for sure, and like people who aren't necessarily, I don't know. I mean, how many interviews do you give as a Magic player, like to prepare you? Like, not many.
Not many.
The Pro Tour and like maybe
practice
some GP.
In front of the mirror.
Yeah, so it's like obviously if you are,
right. He's sitting there. Don't say the F word. Don't say the F word. Don't say the word. Well, oh no! We practiced.
Only I didn't say fudge.
I said the word.
Yeah, it's a very Christmas Story-esque moment. Yes, for sure. But and like we even had some some pretty big mistakes that were made on camera that both Mueller and Gerry T kind of bounced back from. Which is fairly interesting to see.
Yeah, I think like sometimes it's important to know that like the nerves get to these guys too. But if you really, I think it's a good lesson in, and I think LSV talked about this after. So like Gerry, I know Grasp of Darkness to 4/5 creature.
Yeah,
and Grasp of Darkness only gives -4/-4.
So it wasn't in combat.
Nope. Just it was as badly as you might think. Now, I don't think Gerry's winning that game no matter what. That was a triple. Death Picker, like draw, but from his opponent. But I think that you heard LSV say that he's not going to let this affect him for the rest of this match. He's going to go past it, and he did, and he won that match.
He won all the rest of the games.
It's true, and I think there's a lot of people who like they'll do the sheepish concede, or they'll be like, oh, I punted, I can't show my opponent that, like, I can't, like, do this, or they'll fixate on it. And I think, like, Gerry was a good example of how, like, nope, you messed up then, and you go forward, and it was nice.
I mean, that was in the semifinals of the Pro Tour. Like, the biggest stage. Like, that's the only match going.
31,000 people watching. You're like,
It was definitely, probably a little embarrassing for him, but I mean, again, that's why these guys are pros. I mean, he can shrug it off. You know what? He even said, in the interview, he's like, "That's in the past. I can't change it." And that's the attitude you have to have. I mean, you don't have to be a pro to have that attitude. I mean, that's what I try to do. Like, if I make a mistake and I notice it, I just kind of laugh to myself. I'm like, "All right, well, I can't do anything about it now. And all I can try to do, if anything, it makes me play tighter for the rest of the game, because it's like, okay, well, that was a free one. You can have that."
I had to come a long way on that, because I was definitely, I've said before, I'm a tilt artist, if you will.
Professional tilt master.
But, like, I did that on camera, not nearly to the level, like, with Gerry, no one's watching me, but where I waited to kill the Nissa, the flip Nissa, when my opponent, his 7th land was an Evolving Wilds. So I was like, oh, I'll kill it, and they were like, I'll crack my Evolving Wilds. And I was like, oh, and who was it? Oh man, he top 8, I think, or was close to top 8 a couple weeks ago. But anyways, I was just like, I didn't try to tell you I was good at the game. Like, that's what I said to him. I'm like, whatever, I punted. I still won the match, luckily, but it was one of those things where, like, I think in the past I definitely would have been like cursing at myself. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe you're taking my head out of the game. So, I don't know. I'm glad he won, but I think it's cool to see a player actively overcome a mistake like that.
Mm-hmm. And Martin Muller's mistake was a little bit less obvious. He had taken a line. I think he had exiled the wrong. Like, he didn't know. This is his match against Huey Jensen and Winnanen, I believe, in the last round. And he could have exiled the land, but he miscounted how many mana sources Huey had, and basically Huey was able to cast Ulamog the next turn. So Mueller ended up winning. He had to do a little bit more work to figure out how to do so. But that was one that it potentially could have cost the game. But he was able to come back in that same game, figure out a way to win. Kind of refocus after messing up. That was the game that led to the famous interview that we talked about. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's why these guys are there. I mean, they're pros for a reason. That's what you have to do. I mean, it's the only thing you can do, really. I mean, you can't let it eat you up and let it distract you for the rest of the match or the rest of the tournament.
Right.
So,
because you can lose a game to a mistake, and you can lose a match to focusing on it. So,
like the worst thing you could do is let it, like, 2 matches down the line, let it still affect you.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
You just have to forget about it.
Or, like, you overthink a decision because, like, you don't want to do what you did before. Yeah, so,
well, yeah, you definitely want to learn from it, but yeah, you don't want to let it negatively affect you. For the rest of it.
But we also have our team series sort of shaping up. That's going to be going to the last leg into Pro Tour Hour of Devastation. We have Team Musashi first, followed by Genesis, and then MTG Mint Card, and then lastly by Lingering Souls, thanks to Chris Fennell's stellar performance in the Pro Tour this season.
Yeah, the team series has been really interesting. I think it's added a really good wrinkle to the Pro Tour. Musashi obviously had 2 players in the top 4 of this event, so they were already in first going in, and then they just widened their lead. Yeah, Genesis was the big gainer. I guess. Mm. I think the worst that they did was a 10-6, or maybe a 9-7, but all their players did pretty well, even though they didn't have anybody in the top 8. MTG Mint Card was an interesting story because Namsun Wook he's their 6th player, and he was not qualified for this event. So they played with 5 players, and they were in the top 4 going in, and they needed to stay in the top 4 in order to auto-qualify Namsun Wook for the next Pro Tour, which they were able to do. And then Lingering Souls, that's the team with Shaheen Sarani, Travis Wu, Chris Fennell.
Not Tom Martell for some reason.
Yeah.
It's false advertising there. They're kind of like the underdog team to me.
They are. Yeah, for sure. They are ragtag.
Right. And they were able to kind of barely get in there in 4th place, which really worked out for him because I know at least Shaheen Soorani was not qualified for the next Pro Tour, and he now is because they're in the top 4. So that's pretty cool. So I mean, you had players really playing for their team, really playing to try to help out their teammates more than just their own personal finish. So.
I also want to say I've appreciated some of the trash talking, but I'm also kind of laughing. Did you see the Ben Stark interview? About it's like, so your team didn't do so hot last time. What's going on? And he's like, well, we definitely are the best team with the best players. We just had a bad tournament, and then they did really bad this one. Outside of Efro, he did top 8, but the PV had posted that video about their testing and different things. But I thought it was really funny that Ben Stark was just like, oh no, we're definitely the best team, and I was like, well.
The standings would say otherwise.
Now you gotta prove it. Got a lot of names.
Yeah. They're definitely the best, probably the best team on paper, or one of them anyway.
For sure.
But
I enjoyed it. It's just like, oh, we're the best. I'm like, I appreciate your arrogance and candor, but
it's like in sports. I mean, the best team on paper doesn't always win. You got to go out there and perform. Yeah, you mentioned PV's video. I thought that was really interesting. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean, we get if this fits in right here, then yeah, sure, that's fine. Because I really want to talk about it too, but I was going to save it for the end, towards the tail end. But I mean, we'll talk about it now. Fine, that's fine. I'm excited. So yeah, PV posted a video from his hotel room in Nashville after the Pro Tour, pretty much hours after it had finished, and really kind of talked candidly about where his team went wrong, and that was the title of the video, which is fairly obviously kind of grabs you and you want to watch it. So he said some pretty interesting things. Like he said that they decided on the deck that they were going to play fairly late, and they tried a lot of things that just weren't good for the constructed portion of the Pro Tour. And they basically chose to ignore the data that already existed because that's just not something that they were used to having for the most part from previous Pro Tours, and that they're coming to the conclusion that it's really hard to just sort of break it in the Pro Tour these days, which makes sense. You're only having standard Pro Tours. Card pool isn't that necessarily big. And unless there's some mistakes by WotC, which there certainly have been, it is fairly hard to sort of break it. And that was sort of PV's at least findings as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting how he was explaining about. And this is kind of something that we've known for a while about, like you said, with the Pro Tour, it's really hard to just break the format. It's really hard to just come out of left field with a deck that's just going to, just sweep through the tournament. We saw that with Eldrazi in the last Modern Pro Tour. But, even then, multiple teams had the Eldrazi deck with just different versions of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of it's probably an era that has definitely passed in professional Magic. It's just long gone are the days where the small team of 3 to 4 players is going to come in with some deck that nobody's ever seen before and just dominate a tournament.
I hope that's not true. I think currently it is because of the way design is. I mean, it's still just such a mythic heavy format. But I hope that if design swings back the way that it's slowly starting to swing with Amonkhet, maybe they could.
Yeah, I just think it's a very romanticized idea, I guess, if you want to put it that way. It's just man, I could just design a deck out of nowhere and just come through. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, in 8 seeds never beat 1 seeds, but everyone remembers the Golden State team that did it in basketball, a decade ago. So I think to throw it out is.
Well, yeah.
It's always going to be unlikely, and it's going to continue to be less and less likely, but I still think it can be done, pending design changes.
I just think teams have to weigh their risk and reward, because PV's argument was that they wasted so many man hours trying to play these bad decks that weren't good enough when they could have just taken a look at the results, figured out that Marvel was going to be the best deck, and actually build a better sideboard for the mirror. And he regretted like they didn't have that time, they didn't have opportunity. So like teams now have to weigh that. Like if Magic Online continues to be something that we have access to early, then they're going to have more and more data to pull information from. And it's not like bad people play on Magic Online. There certainly are some, but there are also some people that are competent deck builders, that are competent players, that you can pull good data from and then go from there. So is it going to be rewarding enough for the teams to really try to invest those man hours into trying to, quote-unquote, break it?
Yeah, I just have a couple last points here. I think it was he pointed out that like the new, like, quote unquote, breaking the format lies in the small edges that you have now. Like it lies in your sideboarding plans. You know, your, like we saw Team Genesis played Chandra Flamecaller in their Teamer Marvel decks, and they definitely had a leg up against the zombie decks. Like those small tweaks are the things that are gonna, like, quote unquote, break it. You know, maybe not a full new deck. And then the other thing, it's like you were saying, Morgan, like Magic Online, like you have to take it seriously. It used to be that's like, oh, it's just, you know, it's just Magic Online decks, you know, whatever. Those are just whatever. But like pretty much everything we saw at this Pro Tour was what we already saw on Magic Online. There was nothing new that really came out of nowhere. You know, it was all on the table. So, I mean, I think that's going to be the new norm. So.
I will say, not to criticize players who are definitely much better than me, but you know, going back to what I said about Ben Stark's comments too, like you talk about like the team, oh, we test these bad decks. That also seems like maybe you're not using your team effectively, and that's something they have. And I know he sort of touched on that, but I want that to be something that should be considered because I think if your team is playing to its strengths, then you're going to have some people who are going to build the off the wall deck, and some people are going to shoot. Like they were saying, oh, we could have just spent our time looking at Marvel, and it's like, wait, there's not one or two or three or four even of you. There's six of you. Like, I think how you set up as a team is going to be more important than before, where it was just like you hear the stories about how like five of us were on the same one, and then like this guy was kind of on this deck for a little while, and they weren't sure. There was an article today about Red Green Pummeler. I think it was Brian DeMars. He was talking about his teammate, you know, Max Guvetti, who was an invitational winner. Up until the last night, was still looking at the Pummeler deck, and then like that to me says that, like your team isn't really doing what it should be doing. You know what I mean? Like, and like an individual is going to do that, and I don't mean to like point out that, but like, he said that, and I was like, wow, it seems like you should. That maybe why your team deck isn't as strong as it could be.
Hey, Craig Wesco's always going to play a white weenie, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I know that's true, and like Sam Black's going to play his deck, and the tokens deck was cool, and I get that, but I think like if you're actively going to say, if Peeves actively going to say that we wasted this time on these decks so we can't break it, you could have spent some time doing both. And I know it's not a lot of time, but I think like. I don't know, maybe this actual team system, the way it is now, is still pretty new. So it'll be interesting to see if they get better at that.
Also, it's not just like the 6-man teams that are testing. Like you have conglomerates of like multiple teams that are testing with each other.
Those teams are not working on like the edge sideboard plans with each other. You know what I mean? Like I doubt that.
Yeah, we don't really know. Yeah, I mean, possibly.
Maybe they are, but I doubt that super highly.
But
I mean, in general, like. It could just be an issue with too many cooks in the kitchen, or people just don't have the
too many cooks.
They don't have the mentality. Like I think PV, like his frustration was that their team did not have the mentality to just like test a bunch of different decks. And I don't know if that necessarily is the mentality to like split your team in half and test a bunch of different decks, because you're going to have different results with different people in the first place, right? Like different people playing different decks.
And I think some teams have leveraged it better. That's what I'm arguing.
So, but I mean, like you could have one team testing one deck A and one team testing, like one half of the team testing deck B, but then like the results won't show true because you're not having the correct players playing the correct decks.
I mean, I don't know what you're trying to argue with me here. Like you're right, it could also be flawed, but I'm saying that they obviously have an issue, and part of it could just be the team structure, because other teams are figuring this out. Other teams are putting multiple people in the top 16, top 32, and the so-called best team that ever existed, according to Ben Stark, is struggling. So, you know, it could just be a personnel thing that people don't mesh. You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be just testing methods. You know, it could be people that, you know, maybe a super team of players that had not worked together before would do worse than a team of maybe lesser players, but they've been together for a long time. I don't know. It's like coaching in sports.
I think that team. I think the Peeves brings up the issue of people trying to like build decks to break it. I think people just were trying to do that the whole time and not necessarily like just conceding to the fact that Marvel was the best thing we could be doing. I think maybe they wanted something better and there wasn't.
I appreciated that they explored it though.
Yeah,
I don't want teams to just be like, oh well, we're just not going to try, because that's also like that's the other extreme of like, oh well, that sucks.
I think the only reason I have room to even criticize here is because PV was so open, so I don't want it to be like that. I mean, I think your mention of like the super groups is important, because sometimes you get like the Traveling Wilburys, and that group is great, but other times you get like Blinken Park, and well,
we all know that's going to be terrible.
Anytime that. I was going to say a word, but I don't know if Morgan's going to bleep it out or not. So,
I mean,
I'm going to go for it. Anytime your band sounds like Blumkin, you're probably with too far.
You know what? That's obscure enough that if your child is asking questions about it, then you have to have a different conversation with them. So, anyway. But yeah, I thought that was a good thing, and like Ellis actually had a video that he put out today that was like where the standard format goes from here.
Yeah, that was another great video too.
I think so. I like that content that not Zeus, the Channel Fireball is starting to put out. Almost committed a crime there. That Channel Fireball is now starting to put out, and it's very candid videos from popular faces that they have as writers, and kind of you get little more of the Chlog, the Cheon vlog, but little bite-sized informative pieces, which I really enjoy. So both those videos are great, and I do encourage you to check them out and watch them. All right, back to more Pro Tour talk, and this time we're gonna dive in. We're gonna talk about some day 1 meta games, some day 2 meta games, and we'll start from here. So let's talk about day 1. Let's talk about what showed up in the largest amounts, and when we see it really is broken up into almost 3/4 of the format being 3 big decks.
Just before you continue, I have to say, bless you, Frank Carson.
Oh,
just
yeah.
bless you.
He's borderline robot at this point in time. Like, I'm pretty sure he's more machine than man.
He has been known as the Karsten bot before.
Yeah, it literally shows.
Ask White Floors about that one.
I'm pretty sure that when the robots take over, they'll look at Frank Carson. They'll be like, "You're close enough. You can live." So we have the 3 big decks. We have Mardu Vehicles, we have Aetherworks Marvel, and we have Zombies. Both Marvel and Mardu Vehicles were 26%. Zombies was a little bit less at 21%. And then we kind of have everything else. We have 13% as just being literally other decks that showed up. We have Gear Hulk Control showing up as 6%, and then Black Reed variants showing up as 8%.
These are really broad.
Correct.
They
obviously have to be broad. They're sort of there's even more sectors within the pie chart, but Carson chose not to break them down. These are sort of the general archetypes.
Well, he did break them down eventually. Not in this breakdown.
Not in this broader archetype breakdown. Hence the name of the chart. I think that this was, for the most part, at least we expected Mardu Vehicles to be a large portion. We expected, I think that us personally expected Aetherworks Marvel to also be a large portion of the metagame there. And we had Zombies on our radar. I don't know if we necessarily expected them to be as high as they were, but here we are. As far as day 1, is there any other sort of day 1 facts or tidbits that you wanted to talk about, discuss?
Not really.
Cool.
I just want to talk about. Well, I just want to touch on this real quick. The fact that there was a team that was playing New Perspectives combo. That was one I did not expect to see.
That was sort of a late arrival, as it were.
It did not do well.
No, it's soundly punished.
But it was cool, because I believe the first round of Standard they had that on. It's like, what? Yeah. Is this the thing now? No, it just got crushed. Okay.
No, it was not the thing. It is something you can do in the format. It's just not necessarily if you want to win. That's what you should do. So don't do it. But again, it was sort of a late arrival. I think like posted a video of it. I know Saffron Olive did a video on it, and it looked like he could do some dumb stuff, and it seemed fairly non-interactive. So, but now, like when we take a look here for the day 2 conversion rate, we do have some better numbers here for actual conversion, which is really the more important factor for the most part.
No, it's not.
Huh?
I'm just saying, no, it's not.
What? You don't think conversion is important?
Not when half your day is draft.
I mean,
It's important, but I think these numbers lie sometimes.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Anyways, continue.
We'll just say it doesn't tell the whole story.
It does not.
I'm not saying that it tells the whole story. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a lie.
No, they lie.
Everyone lies.
They're lying.
Haven't you seen?
Why are you lying?
Anyway, so we do see that, based on the Aetherworks Marvel quadrant, we see that overall the deck had the archetype had a 71% conversion rate. When we take a look at the further separations of this, we do see that the Flamecaller Teamworks Aetherwork deck had a 100% conversion rate. So people drafted competently, and were able to have their standard decks perform well.
Yeah, it was a big return tournament for Chandra Flamecaller.
Yeah,
She's back. I almost forgot about it. I can't remember if we talked about her on cast or not, but I was like, hey, remember this card? That card was really good. Why aren't people playing that? And it was mostly Heart of Kieran. But
I mean, it was mostly like, you wouldn't get the turn 4. we would get the turn 6.
I think like your 6-drop trading for their Heart of Kieran is pretty bad.
not even. No, it doesn't even kill Heart of Kieran.
No, well, I'm sorry, not trading.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're right. Getting
Just
killed
dying to
never,
Heart of Kieran.
action never kills a Heart of Kieran.
When the aggro deck is a bunch of zombies, it's a little bit better.
It is. It is a little bit better.
Anyway, but yeah, 100% conversion rate for the Flamecaller version was pretty impressive.
We also had the spell heavy version will have a 86% conversion rate, so that's pretty good. The worst one that was on here is we have 4-color Aetherworks, which might have been bold.
Was that the one that Ari Lox was playing?
Yes.
That deck seemed terrible. Like the only way that they could win was Ulamog. That was it. So like if you just got like Lost Legacy or something like that, it was just like
you're just dead.
Game. Yeah. I didn't like that version at all.
In that version, if again conversion rates being what they are, but that one, did not convert.
Is telling. We do have Marta Vehicles here showing up. It was a large number of the day 1 metagame. It had some pretty middling conversion rates. It was only at an overall 58%. Then we do have the blue version, which we call this being the better one to convert in general. So,
yeah, the blue one had a good conversion rate. Apparently, the version with the 2016 model, the DePaula Fleet Wheel version,
not so
0%. There was only one of them. Did not day 2. But
sorry.
I just thought that was funny.
And then lastly, the sort of the other big deck was zombies. It had a 72% conversion rate, with Mono Black being the more represented version of the deck, having a better conversion rate, 73%, but the White Black version having 67% conversion in day 2. So yeah, fairly interesting. There were some other interesting ones that had some fairly interesting conversion rates. I think Control was like sort of the big shocker for a lot of people.
Yeah, I do want to talk about. So they break down the black-green decks, and we have about 6 different versions of black-green decks. So I want to point out that the black-green Cryptolith Rite deck that Sam Pardee and company were playing had 100% conversion rate, 5 out of 5, make day 2. And that deck was pretty impressive. But other than that one, and I guess Delirium did okay at 60%, but other than that, not great.
Yeah, I mean, you have Energy converting 60% as well, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see that. But overall, 55% for black-green versions, and you had 2 different versions that were 0%.
Yeah. So, But Dave, I know that you're obviously a big proponent of the control decks in Standard, and they kind of did a little poop. Yeah,
kind of got stuffed.
They made a poopy.
Yeah. That was probably the most surprising thing to me was that just how bad Control got dunked on in this
They did.
in this Pro Tour.
They get real dunked on.
So bad that Shaheen Sarani played Zombies and Shota Yasoka played Marvel. So
Yep.
those
Very
guys,
telling.
if those guys are not playing Control, it's probably not good enough.
The second one has to be the more surprising one, right? Like, show
Yeah.
a control master playing a
Yeah.
D6.
He got all kinds of... Yeah, exactly. And he did well. He finished in the top 16 in this tournament.
I'm
so.
sure he did, but I just feel like he just died a little bit every time. He was like, I
Yeah,
activate my Marvel.
What's going on? Yeah.
I cast my Ulamog.
Oh, man.
I win the game.
This feels really bad to be exiling all your permanent.
It does.
Why am I interacting with your permanents with a creature? A creature!
Oh, I guess I'll attack.
I do appreciate that Teamer Tower was 2 for 2.
Yeah, there you go.
100%.
There you go.
Everything else, not great. Blue-red control is 56%. Not really good. Oddly enough, I do think control is decent going forward, though, as a choice. So as bad as it did in this Pro Tour, I think a lot of that had to do with Mardu Vehicles being the most played deck. And even though Mardu didn't like tear it up or anything like that, it was still present. And, you know, a lot of their wins probably came against the control decks. So I think going forward, Mardu will be a little bit less of a part of the format. And, you know, control tends to be good against the Marvel deck. So
I would say Mardu will be less of the part of the format in a larger scale, but on your local scale, don't expect people to like switch off decks.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking about GPs and opens.
Yeah,
and stuff
GPs
like that,
opens,
yeah.
but
I think it's just going to be. I agree. Control will look a little bit better. Obviously, counterspells have been the good thing against Marvel before, but I think like if Zombies and Vehicles and Marvel are the big three decks, Control just has a tough road to hoe. Like, how do you like your aggro plan? Like your creature based damage plan is going to be totally different for like Zombies, which is go wide, than it would be for Vehicles, which is mid range with Planeswalkers. And then like you want counterspells though for your Marvel matchup. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it does seem difficult to predict a metagame where that would be great.
Oh yeah, I think like for this weekend coming up, I think you definitely want to focus on beating Marvel and Zombies if you can. And I think Control can be tweaked to beat those, but you're probably going to like lose against Mardu. You know, you can't beat all three.
Right.
But it's better than the last format where it was like, well, you can't beat both of these decks. It was just two. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but I don't think Control's dead by any means.
no, and people are still trying. That's kind of the nice thing with the format is I don't think anything is necessarily dead if it was somewhat prominent before the Pro Tour.
Sure.
So Blue-Ray Control, you could probably still carry on. Like Mardu, you could still carry on. It's just different now, and obviously the Pro Tour is going to shape how the metagame goes forward. And if you didn't think that you're going to have to make changes to your deck after the Pro Tour, then you're kind of deluding yourself. Or already playing Marvel, so there you go. just even Marvel will have to change. I mean, the lists that were being played beforehand necessarily the same list are showing up now. So we'll have to wait and see on that.
So with that in mind, let's take a look at some decks. In the top 8, we had 4 copies of Teamer Aetherworks. We had 3 copies of Zombies, 2 mono black, and then a white black, which was Chris Fennell. And then we also had a green black Energy, which is a kind of a unique build. So I kind of want to start there because Ken Yukihiro did something pretty sweet.
He did.
He registered the only 4 copies of Bone Picker. I think it's a Death Picker earlier. Bone Picker in the entire tournament, and then took them all the way to the top 8. Good on you, bud.
Yeah.
And they looked pretty good from what we saw.
Yeah, a 3-2 fly. We saw like the first game against Gerry Thompson where he like turn 2 just like fatal push Thompson's first play, and then like played a Bone Picker, passed the turn. It was like, oh,
Fatal
like,
push your guy play Delver.
and like then like next turn he can follow it up with
Like a Rishkar.
with like a Rishkar, and then it's like, oh
no.
you're just gonna die. Like, and this is an interesting build of black green because it's not going very big. It's definitely like no Verter Scare Hulks and really low on the land count, and I thought it was an interesting build, and for green black to stay relevant, it's going to have to do some nifty things, and he did. You talked about Dave, if breaking the format requires you to make little changes. Well, going a little bit smaller, but going bone picker seems like a pretty interesting way to go.
Yeah, definitely some interesting choices here. I like in the sideboard the 4 blossoming defense in the board. That's a card that we've seen like main deck in some of these more aggressively slanted black green decks, but maybe not the best in certain matchups. So just bring them out of the board instead. It's just kind of an odd choice, but kind of makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's nothing else too crazy going on here. Like you said, he's not going too big. I mean, basically the curve ends at Rishkar. Yeah, 3 mana. Or I guess Walking Ballista could go bigger than that, if you want. But, yeah. I mean, he was the lone black-green deck to make the top 8. So.
Yeah, so I just wanted to at least talk about Bone Picker because, card sweet.
And this is Ken Yukihiro's 3rd Pro Tour top 8. I think, quietly, 3rd Pro Tour top 8. Fun fact, I played him in my first Pro Tour, and he crushed me.
Oh. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you're here and he's there. So
Yeah. I think it might have been his first Pro Tour, too. I don't know.
Oh.
But he's obviously done a little bit better than me in his Magic career.
A little bit.
He gets to be on real teams. First place team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's nice.
Yeah.
But who knows? We're not him. How could we ever compare our happiness to his?
Let's talk about the Aetherworks decks, because there were 4 Aetherworks decks, but they were all a little different. So Mark Tobias was playing kind of a stock build, if you will, which is playing Chandra Torch of Defiance main, 4 Whirler Virtuosos, 4 Rogue Refiners, just playing a lot of ways to just get energy. A lot of permanence, basically. So let's see. Yeah, I guess this is what you would consider to be the stock build. So you had Servant into the Conduits, and this version can definitely just once you get Marvel going, even if you're not hitting Ulamog, you're probably hitting something that makes energy, so that you can Marvel again the next turn.
Yeah.
You can just chain it and just keep going, which some of the other lists aren't as good as doing that. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything that really sticks out to you in this list?
Shielded Aether Thief.
Yeah, main deck's a little weird, but it's not completely weird.
It sticks out, man.
It definitely sticks out, yeah. I guess, in the one main deck Shielded Aether Thief, it kind of makes sense because, if you draw 2 of those, it's kind of miserable, but, one of them's pretty good. It's just, a way that you can, if you don't have a Marvel, it's a way that you can use your energy to try to get to your Marvel,
Yeah.
And that card did good work for Yuya Watanabe as well. It's looked pretty good against zombies. It pretty much blocks everything in that deck and can kind of force them to try to go wider, and it kind of plays into your sweepers. So I guess we'll just pull up Watanabe's deck. So Watanabe and Eric Froelich actually played a pretty similar version. So this version of Aetherworks, still Teamer, but this is more of the spell-based version, which almost plays more of a control type of game. So this version has made a Glimmer of Genius in it. And as far as creatures, it's only playing, it still has the 4 Rogue Refiners, but only 2 Whirler Virtuosos, no Servant of the Conduits or anything like that. Watanabe is actually only playing 3 Ulamogs, which is, I think we agree that's probably not the best. But in any case, 3 Censor in the main for Watanabe, and also 3 Dissenter's Deliverance. So you definitely, those cycling cards definitely let you hit your lands, and let you play at more of an instant speed game.
I got to watch at one point Watanabe Marvel hit a sensor to counter an Ulamog.
Yeah, his opponent marveled into Ulamog, and then he marveled in response to censor it. He still like exiled 2 things, but it was still
it was pretty sweet.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, like I do like this version a lot. It seems like this is the version, like if you want to beat other Marvel decks, which is probably going to be pretty important going forward. Play something like this. He's got main deck negate. It's just 1, but he's got 1 main deck negate.
Oh, the cycling helps get you there, plus Glimmer.
Yeah. No, this deck is definitely weaker to something like zombies. You have just 1 Kozilek's return in the main deck to kind of deal, with a go wide strategy like that. And even if zombies gets a Lord or 2 on the board, it's not really even going to do anything. So, maybe going forward, I would look to maybe play more sweepers, or at least in the board. But yeah, I like this list a lot. And probably one of the most impressive cards that I saw for him was the 1 Shrine of the Forsaken Gods that he's playing.
Oh yeah, it's so sweet.
Which, like, it looks kind of random, but like I can't tell you like how many times on camera he was just like sitting on 8 lands, and then next turn he's just like, oh, I'll just play my Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, cast Ulamog. Like, people aren't expecting it, Like, they're like, okay, you can't get me with Ulamog next turn, so I'll take this line. Or like, even if he's not casting Ulamog, like if you have 7 lands in play, you can just add 2 mana to cast your Aetherworks Marvel, which, if you're holding up, a removal spell or a Glimmer, it lets you like play Aetherworks, have Glimmer up. It was pretty good. Like, if I'm going to play Marvel, I'm definitely playing the 1 Shrine, because I think it was nice. And then the last version we have was the Genesis deck, which Martin Mueller was playing. Teamer Aetherworks with the 4 Chandra Flamecaller. And I guess this is more on the side of the stock version, but Chandra Flamecaller was like, that was a game changer. That was a real innovation. And this deck seemed way better against zombies than any of the other versions of Aetherworks that were out there. Chandra Flamecaller is just such a backbreaker, like just coming down and sweeping the board, and then just like, leaving a Planeswalker on the field that can either end the game really quickly, or being able to use the 0 to just like cycle out these Ulamogs that you're drawing, or like, in other matchups you can like cycle out dead removal spells or whatever.
Yeah, I think there was the match, it was actually the Calcano's win it in against Martin Mueller, but the game that Calcano lost, he chose not to attack to kill a Chandra for lethal, and instead like let him block, and then like Mueller the next 2 turns literally just 0 Chandra until he had too much gas, and it was like that was the game. And it was it was like, even when it wasn't that huge of a threat, the 0 was just like, well, okay, well, I'm going to churn through across these 2 turns, I'm going to churn through 12 cards. Like, I'm going to find what I need. So I like that Chandra. She's great.
Yeah, and I do think I think Chandra is going to be a huge card for like. I would expect zombies to obviously pick up in popular. Like, it won the Pro Tour, so it's obviously going to be a deck that you have to worry about. And like, Chandra just seemed like, from what I saw over the weekend of the Pro Tour, like, it just seemed like one of the best cards you could have against them. Like, it's just something that you can hit off Marvel, sweep the board, and then have a little bit left over. And
it should be that's some crazy. Who did Thompson play in the quarterfinals? He
played against Tobias.
Okay. So did he? So he didn't have the Chandras. No, he did. No, he had Torch Defiance. Okay.
He just had he had the 1 Chandra Flamecaller.
So Gerry didn't have to play against any of the Flamecallers, like
right.
in the actual top 8.
Yeah, the way that it worked out for Gerry, it was perfect, because Mueller had to play against Yuya and the other side of the bracket, and I think Yuya's deck is better against the mirror, and he won 3-0 in that match. And I think if Mueller makes it through Yuya, I think he probably has a good chance to beat Gerry in the finals, because those Chandras are just such a beating. And again, we saw Calcano against Martin Mueller twice, so we saw him in the Swiss, and then also in the top 8, and I don't know. Like, there were definitely times where, like you're looking to hit a Chandra off of a Marvel instead of an Ulamog. Like there were board states, and there are board states against zombies where like they can go too wide where an Ulamog doesn't even do anything.
Yeah.
You're like, oh cool, like kill two things, and they just attack through it anyway.
Yeah, it was definitely said that on coverage in multiple times in reference to Chandra, when it's like, oh well, you have a card in your deck where you want to choose it over Ulamog, then it's a good card, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like these are all like the different versions. I mean, these are the versions in the top. There were other versions of Aetherworks that I don't think we're going to get into.
I don't want to talk about any more of this deck.
Yeah, but I think it's important to know the differences, though. Like that's if you're going to be playing standard, I think that you definitely would want to know. But yeah, we don't have to talk about Aetherworks anymore.
All right, let's move on to
sorry, is this bad sounds?
let's move on to zombies, and let's talk about Chris Fennell's version. Let's talk about the Lingering Souls Black-White version, which I understand saying that now is confusing, but I mean the team
doesn't have Lingering Souls in it.
The team, I wish the team of Lingering Souls. This is Chris Fennell is a member of that team, and the version that they came to was Black-White. So they had decided that Mono Black just wasn't quite what they wanted, and got to this version of the deck, which has some similarities and obviously some differences. We do see the white splash in here for Binding Mummy. We see it in here for Wayward Servant, as well as Anguish Unmaking and some white cards in the sideboard, including Gideon, Allies Zendikar. So hey, Forsyth, he is in the top
Yeah,
eight.
he made it.
That was a bit awkward.
That was a bit awkward. And then
there's no get. Oh,
and then Declaration in Stone as well. So this version does seem to have some edges in the mirror via things like Declaration in Stone out of the sideboard, which is fairly handy, clearing out a bunch of tokens. And also having ways to sort of have some reach within Wayward Servant, and have ways to kind of tap down both creatures and artifacts, with Binding Mummy.
Yeah. It has the upside of not having to play crappy Metallic Mimics in the deck.
Correct.
Which is definitely probably the worst card in the mono black version, but it's kind of a necessary evil.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I like the numbers in this deck. Like 4 Dark Salvation and 4 Liliana's Mastery, I think is correct.
Mm-hmm.
I think, some people were trimming on either of those cards. I don't think it's right.
No, it just was consistently a 1-mana hard removal spell.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it made tokens. And sometimes it killed something, and in this, the white-black version, tapped down creatures and made lethal attacks. No, you want to play all the Dark Salvation.
Yeah, sometimes it just killed Ulamog as well, which is hilarious. But I mean, in general, like this is the difference. But a lot of the core of the zombie decks look the same.
Yeah.
That's like really flavorful, right? Like, isn't it the whole point of Liliana the Last
Correct.
Hope is the horde of zombies takes out an Eldrazi Titan?
Yeah,
I love that actually.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about it for a second and loved it.
I think. Speaking of killing Ulamog, this is this version can actually remove an Ulamog from the board where Mono Black can't. I guess outside of a huge Dark Salvation. So you have the Anguish Unmaking here, which can take out an Ulamog or a Marvel. If they whiff on the first one, maybe. And then the Deck and Stones in the sideboard, which I'm not sure if you really bring those in, like to just hit Ulamog. Doesn't seem that great.
Probably not. But
Doesn't
I mean, like,
great, but
you're also like theoretically like you could bring it in against some versions of Marvel that have Virtuoso as well. As just a way to be like, okay, you've made a bunch of blockers. I'm going to clear them out and still be able to get you. And that could be like loose as well.
Yeah,
so.
that sounds loose too as well, because like a lot of times they're just making the blockers like in combat. You know what I mean? Like they're not just on my main phase. I'll make all these tokens. Go. Like that doesn't happen.
Draining their resources, their reserves, as it were.
Yeah. This list, I think personally, like if I'm going to play zombies, I'd rather play mono black just because it seems more. If I'm going to play an aggro deck, I'd rather play the one that's more consistent mana. This one can have some awkward, come play tap lands. Has shambling vents, and your concealed courtyards could come to play tapped after turn 3.
And even things like, we already said Binding Mummy's sweet. Sometimes it's actually just garbage, though.
Yeah, like the worst thing that can happen is like you keep a hand of like, 3 swamps and then you draw like a Wayward Servant, or something. Like you just have an uncastable card. Like you don't ever want that to happen in an aggro deck. Like you just want to cast your spells when you need to cast them.
I suppose, but I do think this deck's better against Marvel.
I don't think that's true, actually.
I mean, if you're telling people to play Marvel and play more sweepers, I think this deck has a better plan for sweepers.
Maybe it does, but it also like can't play a lot of its important cards or have its best turns because of the way the deck is. You have 8 lands that come into play tapped as of turn 4. So like your best draws where you want to play 2 cards on turn 4, it can be really hard to sequence. It's also can be really hard to cast Mastery on time, and those are the best ways either of the decks kill them. Like you can hope that Servant's going to get there, but I think that the Mono Black's version's consistency and being able to cast all of its spells on curve makes it a lot better in this deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, but then again, like you're just going to lose to the way that you're telling people to like sideboard against them. Because like Mono Black is still going to lose to the hardcore to sweepers. Like that's
Sure.
bar none. I mean, this deck has a more of a chance to.
It has more reach, but it's still going to lose to the sweepers. Like,
Sure, but you also have
Gideon's
the-
better out of the board.
Yes, exactly, and that's huge.
I actually think this is the worst version of the deck, though.
I mean, I
does-
guess
it's
we'll
trying to-
I mean,
disagree.
it has some advantages, and in some areas, and obviously you're giving up a little bit of consistency or speed in other areas. So I don't know if it's overall worse, but I think against Marvel, I would rather play Mono Black.
I mean, it
it's
didn't
more
convert
streamlined.
as well as Mono Black did, but
Yeah,
I guess maybe I was right in those statistics. Don't mean anything.
but I mean,
I set the trap.
we can take a
Trap
look at
yourself.
like. I mean, we
You
did.
played yourself, Mike.
We do actually have like, as far as that goes, like actual archetype breakdowns with matchup percentages as well that we didn't talk about. And when we take a look at let me take a look at the Mono Black zombies here. So against Marvel 61 and Mono Black had a 50% conversion rate against Marvel decks. So I mean, obviously these numbers don't say the whole story. I will concede to you to that point, but that percentage is 10% is different.
Can I also look at this though? So Mono Black Zombies had almost a 58.8% record against Mardu, and White Black Zombies had a 9 and 23. It's a 28% record.
Sure,
against
but we're
Mardu.
already predicting that Mardu is going to be less of the metagame going forward.
It's not going to be that much less. Is it enough less to play a version of zombies that can't beat vehicles ever?
But we expect the increases to be in Marvel and other zombies matches,
Okay.
which they do have an advantage against.
I mean,
Okay,
overall,
so-
the White Black Zombies deck also had 7% overall less win percentage overall.
All right. So what we're saying is,
Mono Black Zombies
apparently, if you want to have slightly more percentage, but way less percent, slightly more percentage against Marvel, way less percentage against Mardu, you want to play Black White.
Correct. So if you want to
be
play
more
against the decks that you expect to increase
Yeah.
in a larger tournament and decrease, then you would play Black White Zombies, which would be better going forward.
Sure. Personally, I wouldn't play either version of zombies, but if you're into that kind of thing, then yeah, maybe Black White's good for this coming weekend. But I don't know. All right. You want to talk about Jerry's list?
Sure.
I mean, do we need to? It's just like
It is the same core.
just
Like
play
the-
22 swamps. And
The only thing that I will say is that, well, I have a bad gateway from MTG Goldfish, and I can't done look at any of these things. Oh, there we go. It's back now. We do see things like Lost Legacy showing up here in
Which
the
is
sideboard.
garbage. Don't play that card.
Don't play that card. Just play two more transgresses.
Just
Let's
so
be
you
real
know,
here.
yeah. So Christian Colcano, in the top 8, cast 2 Lost Legacies, resolved 2 Lost Legacies against Martin Mueller, took all his Zulamogs and all his Chandra Flame Callers. Still lost.
I mean, he also beat him in the Swiss and could have potentially won all 3 games had he not made a really bad attack in the second game. So like,
He beat him in the Swiss, but Martin kept a 0 land hand.
he kept a very keepable 0-land hand off a mulligan and almost got there
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, if you go back and watch game 2, if Calcano makes that attack on that Chandra, like that game is entirely different than what it was.
Okay.
I
I'm just saying.
understand-
I don't think Lost Legacy is a good sideboard card. I'm
Oh,
not saying Mono Black can't. Be
I know. I feel like I have to defend that because being Maureen, and
Yeah.
I can't deal with it.
I mean, I'm not the only one sharing the opinion that Lost Legacy and Dispossess are bad sideboard cards against Marble.
I just meant about Mono Blacks. I just feel like I have to defend the deck.
I'm not saying the deck's bad.
No. like in Jerry's list, for example, like you could just turn the 2 Lost Legacies into the other 2 Transgress the Mind, since he's only playing 2. Like I'd rather have 4 Transgress the Mind than
100%.
It just, Lost Legacy. You would think that it's kind of game ending, but it really isn't. And it's if you draw it, if they already hit an Ulamog, well, you're dead anyway. But it's not great. But yeah, I mean, not a ton going on here. I guess the Aethersphere Harvesters are pretty interesting in the sideboard, and the Liliana Last Hopes kind of let you grind a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much like pretty straightforward stock list. There's nothing really crazy going on here, which is a little odd for a Gerry Thompson deck because usually he's got a little bit of spice.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he's happy with his choice for this tournament. So,
I mean, we do see like him going against things that we've advised, like only having 3 Liliana's Masteries.
Yeah, that I don't agree with that, but obviously it worked out for him. But
clearly,
yeah. But I'm really happy for Gerry. Like he's set a lot of records. Some that might never be broken, like winning 2 opens in the same weekend. Can't even do that anymore. Or like going 15-0 and the one fairly recently. But yeah, like for a long time he had that reputation of like really good Grand Prix player, not a great Pro Tour player. Obviously he's turned that around. This was his second Pro Tour top 8, and now he's a Pro Tour champion. So we'll see him at Worlds. He's platinum now.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm super happy for him. I think like we said earlier, him and Calcano are kind of like really the 2 like more popular players, are just like people that like who hates Gerry? Come on, like nobody hates on Gerry or Calcano.
Probably Nega Gerry.
Yeah,
his shadowy counterpart.
But even then, like they probably just end up getting brunch next week. Or
Yeah, it's
something
fair.
Like that.
Yeah, it's true. Deep cut.
Yeah. So any of the other lists kind of jump out at you from like the winners, as it were?
There are 3 decks I want to look at.
Okay, let's look at them.
Sam Black's deck?
No, I actively don't want to look at that deck.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
I don't. If that deck somehow catches on, sure. But
Sam Black does not speak to you as a deck builder.
that deck just seems so bad. Like, oh my! He's a much better deck builder than me, so I could just be wrong. But man, like, I read the article, him extolling about how yes, Lifelink Cat is a terrible card, but you have to play it. I was like, I don't have to. I don't have to save this deck up. So
one thing he did, he did a deck tech. So if you're interested in black, what was it?
It's
Abzan tokens with what's the token thing?
Anointed Procession.
Parallel
Lives, the white ship.
Apparently, it copies clue tokens as well.
Oh,
it does,
which is hilarious. But yeah, that was definitely probably the most off the wall thing that we saw.
If you guys want to talk about the deck, that's fine. I don't.
Oh, I don't care. Either way.
First thing I want to talk about is Teamer Energy by Michael Brearley.
Mm-hmm.
It says he went 8-1, but that doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't he have had 10 rounds?
He dropped. I don't know.
That also doesn't make any sense.
Maybe he had 9D.
Then it would be 8-1-1.
Just says 8 wins, right?
It says 8-1. I don't know. Anyways, maybe it is just 8 wins, and that's what it is. So this is a Marvel deck that swapped out Marvel for mid-range cards, but this is a deck that got mentioned by Carson a couple of times. If you look in there, it's Teamer Deep Fiend.
Yeah.
This is the deck, and it's this is the mid-range deck I think I was talking about last week, or I was hoping there was a deck you could just play mana creatures in green that go up to Glorybringer and big creatures. This isn't how I envisioned it, but it's kind of sweet because you get to play, Channel Initiate, Servant of the Conduit. You get Rogue-Refiner and Whirler Virtuoso. You get Virtuoso. I have you have Bristling Hydra, Glorybringer, and then 4 Elder Deep Fiends to sort of seal it up. And Elder Deep Fiend and Glorybringer may not seem like cards that go together, but I kind of think they're kind of like peanut butter and jelly because you play the Glorybringer, you exert it, you kill a guy, you hit them, and then you don't feel that bad emerging the Glorybringer because you're not going to use it for a few turns. So you're just like, here we go. feels kind of nice. This deck seems interesting. And Elder Deep Fiend, like, if you have an aggressive draw with this, Elder Deep Fiend's the kind of card that can put a number of decks away before the game really takes shape. So, I like this deck a lot.
Yeah. Can I just say, like, I was really expecting Glorybringer to have more of an impact on this Pro Tour than it really did.
I think Glorybringer expected himself to have more of an impact.
Yeah.
He did not bring the glory.
He did not. He didn't show up.
I have shamed all the dragons on Amonkhet.
But no, the other thing I wanted to say about this list, like, Bristling Hydra is, like, secretly, like, one of the best cards in the format.
Card's very good.
Like, it's, you just can't remove it. Like, in a lot of the sweepers that people are playing now, we're not seeing as many Fumigates. We're seeing, you know, Radiant Flames, Sweltering Suns, Kozilek's Return. Like, these cards don't deal with Bristling Hydra very effectively. Or even like Chandra, Flamecaller, like, if you get enough energy, you can just
Grow
have
past
more
it.
than that, yeah. So, yeah, Bristling Hydra is a sweet card that I think we'll see more and more play as the format develops.
Yeah, I think his deck's sweet.
Yeah, I don't know how it sits in the metagame, but he obviously had 8 wins, so...
I mean, again, if we're, you know, advising people to play more sweepers, like, that's going to hurt your early game more than it probably would have.
that's definitely true. I do think that, like, even the zombies decks are a little weak to Glorybringer draws.
Yeah, I think they were just weak to flyers.
That's
in general.
true. Like we saw with like Bone Pickers, but like this card is hard to kill with their removal spells. Like Grasp of Darkness does get it, but a lot of them were cutting numbers of those, and like Fatal Push not being able to touch it, plus being able to kill their best creature like a Lord. It feels pretty good.
Yeah, I think Glorybringer in the zombies matchup, I think it's as good as how many grasps they have. You know what I mean? Like, if you cast this and then they grasp it, it's going to feel pretty bad that you traded your 5-mana thing for their 2 mana. But yeah, I mean, if they're skimping on that or if they're playing more Fatal Pushes, then yeah, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and if you're interested in this list, there's actually, I just was looking at the MTGO dailies, the competitive constructed leagues. There is a list that's similar to this that actually did fairly well. Actually, a couple that have done fairly well.
Yeah, it looks like I got a couple 5-0s already.
Which is, you know,
So,
good to see.
which is it's pretty good. It bodes well for it as well.
Yeah.
Next, I want to talk about Black-Red Control. Alexander Habert, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Or Habert. And this is exactly what it sounds like. We know that Control did poorly, but here's a Black-Red Control deck with 7 wins that also a 4 Glorybringer deck, Dave. So I found them. I found all the Glorybringers. But it's playing 3 Gontis in the main, which is pretty sweet. 4 Ballistas, and then a bunch of Planeswalkers. Liliana of the Last Hope, Chandra Torch Defiance, Liliana's Death Majesty, which is pretty sweet with Glorybringers. Like, I'm just going to keep bringing these back. And then a ton of removal.
We figured out a way to defeat Aetherworks Marvel. You just play Gonti, and you just take what they were going to get. Oh, is that Nulamog? You don't get that anymore.
I will say that the way the sideboard was set up here, they had the 4 Transgressors, but not too much else. So maybe, this is the kind of deck that you could try to work on the sideboard to make it better against Marvel. But they're not playing any, like you said you don't like Lost Legacy or Dispossessed. They don't got them.
Yeah, they also didn't like it. Came to the correct conclusion.
So 4 Lay Bare the Hearts in the main deck, which hilariously enough cannot take a Marvel.
What are you talking about?
They have 4 Lay Bare the Heart in the main.
Lay Bare the Heart.
Oh, in the main deck.
In the main deck.
I was looking at the sideboard.
Yeah, it cannot take Aetherworks Marvel because that card is
legendary.
legendary.
Can't take Will
For
Heart.
some reason, why is that card legendary?
I mean, to be fair, would you want someone to have access to 2 of them?
Yeah, so the trigger on when things leave the battlefield for that, it's already gross when they play the second one to get 2 energy for some reason,
Yeah.
because that's how that card should work.
It's just 1
Right.
energy. No,
it's
no, it's
2.
2.
No,
isn't
because
it?
you
two.
get 1 for each. Yeah.
Dang. Card's dumb. Yeah, you don't want to have them have access to like multiples of them on the battlefield. At the same
No,
time.
that would be worse.
Yes. So that's why they're legendary.
No, like it would
get
be
2
worse for them for it to be
Why?
not legendary.
You get twice as much energy and you get 2 spins. They have like they
don't
can
know,
easily spin the card twice in 1 turn. I don't know what you're
yeah, but
talking
this
about.
way they could spin it and then hit another one, kill the one that already got used, and then get 2 energy, and then spin it again.
Sure, but they could just spin it and then find a counterspell for your thing, and then spin their second one and find their Rulamog. Like I don't. Where's the bad?
They're already spinning it to win it, so we don't need.
Yeah,
them,
who
right?
cares? They don't give them. You don't go to the final portion of the Price is Right Well, you're spinning the wheel. They don't give you 2 wheels to spin. You get 2 spins, but they don't give you 2 wheels to spin,
Is
man.
that like the Raisin brand? Like 2 spins, like 2 scoops of raisins.
By the way, that reminded me of another Mishra's Photoshop thing that he had with the Wheel of Fortune. Did
Yeah.
you see it? It just passes by the Ullabog and hits the bankruptcy like when they miss.
That's great.
Oh, man.
I did get some joy from that.
Yeah.
That felt good.
But this is, I feel like Black Red Control is one of those decks that kind of shows up in a lot of formats and people like it. But this, I mean, again, these, you wanted the Glorybringer to do better. Here's where they're hiding. Last deck I want to talk about, which also has Glorybringer, Jund Gods.
You just found all the Glorybringer.
Well, I
decks.
did because I think these are the decks that, like, one, I said I want to talk about mid range, and Jund Gods is that also that mid range deck. But also, I think like these are the decks that I think even like Wizards wanted to see, because these are the decks that are playing Amonkhet cards.
These are the decks that are playing the flagship cards from the new set. Oh, cool.
So Jund Gods is something we've talked about in the cast before. It focuses around Hazoret and Ronus the Indomitable, and then just plays a bunch of good creatures: Greenbelt Rampager, Longtusk Cub, Scrapkeep Scrounger, Bristling Hydras, Glorybringers. It has Heart of Kirins, and then removal spells, and Attune with Aether. Is Attune with Aether just the best card in Standard?
Probably.
Like, it lets all these decks that should have to run a lot of mana cheat desperately on it while also getting another energy source. So
It's just like a land that adds to energy, basically.
So
I mean, when I played the Temur Tower deck, I was literally playing that over lands. So
yeah, when I was trying out the 4-color Constrictor deck with that had Tamiyo's, like either was just the best card. It was just the best card in the deck. Yeah. So, but like this I think is where we're at. And like if you look at the board, you have things like Prowling Serpaperd, which I think that was a card that we saw on a lot of sideboards that maybe wasn't necessary this weekend. But if Control's out there, like, it feels pretty good to make sure that your gods aren't getting countered because they're hard to interact with otherwise.
Yeah.
Got a lot of
Theoretically.
stuff. Well, theoretically. I mean, Dark Salvation definitely does interact with gods.
And Grasp as well for Hazoret.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, this list has a lot of odd numbers in it, but I mean, it seems to have worked. Like 2 Longtusk Cub, 2 Ronus, 2 Bristling Hydra, 3 Hazoret, 2 Glorybringer. It's like kind of.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It feels like it's untuned, but obviously it did pretty well for Patrick Dickman, who was playing this. But yeah, I mean that's another thing. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's doing anything like super powerful though.
Ronus and Hazoret together this is pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful.
And then like Ulamog just says, "Ha ha ha."
Sure, of course it does, but I
brushes him off
I
his
was
shoulder.
trying to get a little bit further into the
Yeah.
surface here and find some decks that were, not there.
Yeah, I know, but like where we're at in the format right now, that's like that's what you have to worry about, you know. But
So that's really all I wanted to talk about. So,
I don't think I really had anything that kind of that I wanted to talk about as far as decks go. I know that there was a white-black controlled list.
that was Tomek Pedrikowski, which is playing all the hits, and I think that kind of deck is not great, but it definitely appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of runs in the same vein as the red-black control deck. Just play
Sure.
a bunch of removal and or discard spells, and like I think the black-red deck probably really trying to win on the back of like. Yeah, I guess I try to win on the back of the same things like subdown creatures and glory and like planeswalkers. Obviously. So
I just want to say real quick, I thought the deck that the Peach Garden Oath guys played.
Sultai Aetherworks deck.
Yeah, Reed Duke and Huey Jensen and Owen played the Sultai Aetherworks, which is kind of a little bit less all-in on Aetherworks, but, and played some Ishkanaz and Demon of Dark Schemes and things like that. It was pretty cool, but unfortunately for them, it didn't do a whole lot of winning on camera. But it did have some interesting lines, like, being able to reanimate Ulamog with Liliana Death's Majesty, things like that.
The biggest complaint about that deck I kept seeing was that when they didn't have a Marvel, they would just have like all of this energy stored up, and like unlike the red
didn't have
decks,
Whirl of Virtuoso,
or like Harness Lightning, it was just like, well, hope I hit a Marvel, otherwise this resource is nothing. And all these other the teamer decks are able to make that resource like important. Like energy is important even if you don't have Marvel.
Yeah, I think with this one too, it was actually worse at making energy on top of that.
Yes.
Than the other one. So like there were a lot of situations where it just wouldn't have enough to spin the Marvel, and it definitely couldn't keep it going. If
Yeah, I
it
saw
missed.
a couple games of Reed where he would he had a Marvel and had like 2 energy for multiple turns and couldn't do anything. And I was like, all right. Well,
Yeah.
someday you'll spin.
Yeah.
Someday you'll spin it.
Yeah,
and your prince will come. Your big, ceaselessly hungering prince.
Yeah, definitely a different take on it, but I don't know how viable this one is going forward.
I wonder if I mean, I imagine that they. Let me pull up a list here real quick. Oh gosh, it's so far down.
They were like in the 6-win bracket.
Yeah, I see that. William Jensen did hit the.
Did he get 7?
He did hit 7.
Okay,
so
okay.
Congrats to him. I just wonder if there's like, I mean, we talk so much about Bristling Hydra, and it's just like, I mean, maybe this isn't the deck for it necessarily, but I mean, that's a way to generate energy and use energy that you have stored up.
That is true.
So I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm no rocket scientist. So.
Is that what it takes for Hydras?
Maybe.
Okay.
But I wouldn't like rule it out as being something that could be played in this deck if you just are having these energy issues of like gaining and using energy. Like, I mean, that's one way to do it. Just a thought, throwing it out there. Also, I've heard I saw this on Twitter today, which I'm sure you guys probably saw, but and who knows if it's good or not, as Saffron Olive pointed out when he tweeted it. But Void Winnower is really good against Marvel decks, by the way.
You can't even.
Nope, you certainly cannot, and pretty much everything relevant in the deck is even.
Harness Lightning's 2, Marvel's 2, Lamog's 10. Yeah, all right. You can still play Virtuoso.
You can still play your
That-
Rogue Refiners and
And
Virtuosos.
then that's it, yeah.
But yeah, everything else can't negate things.
If they can stand up against that 9-9 or whatever that thing is.
It's a 9/7, I think.
9-7? Yeah, sure.
I think, yeah.
Why not?
So, just some food for thought. Not saying it's good or not, but hey.
So, do you want to move into some conclusions then? What do you want to? I saw that Dave you put in the show notes here. So, where does the format go from
Oh, excuse me. It's an 11/9. It's way big.
Oh,
It's
Oh.
a big boy.
even better than a 9-9.
Even better.
Much better. And then, how are we preparing for tournaments to come? Especially since Morgan, you're playing Standard for us this weekend.
Apparently, I have to play Marvel.
You don't have to play Marvel, but I do think Zombies is the wrong choice for this weekend.
Yeah. I think,
I suppose.
I like that deck. I really do.
Yeah, whether it's fair or not, I think Zombie's going to have the biggest target, and I think that's the easiest deck to hate out. Like
It is.
Zombies doesn't have the room to adapt as much. Like you're kind of like locked into certain cards with Zombies. You don't really have a whole lot of variety there.
In addition to the fact that half the decks in the format that are good are red and can play Sweltering Suns, Radiant Flames, Cosmic Saturn, Chandra Flamecaller.
Right.
These are all things that are very bad for Zombies.
Especially if you're playing the mono black version too. Like you're obviously
Don't
only
say it.
you're obviously only one color, so you're even restricted to even like what cards you have to even choose from. I think play more sweepers and you can probably beat Zombies. Whether that's entirely true or not, it feels like that's the recipe. Whereas Marvel is like, well, there's so many different versions of Marvel. How do you prepare for all these different? Like, it has a lot more room to you could play a more control version. You could play a more permanent based version. You could play different colors.
I think I would advocate the Flamecaller version, just because I want to beat Zombies this weekend. But
Yeah,
I think there's also argument for the Spellhaver version as well.
I think there's an argument for something in the middle. I think you could play the spell heavy version and have flame callers on the board.
Yeah,
It's probably that's where I would go if I were playing it. But I think like this weekend, that's where you want to be. Like being tuned for the mirror while having more sweepers for Zombies is, I think it's pretty obvious to me. That's where you'd want to be if you're playing Team or Aetherworks. worry about Mardu vehicles later. But like you said, I think that'll still be
And even
a
then,
big
like,
player in the format.
Ulamog's still pretty good against that deck. It's weird how that works.
Yeah, that deck's just naturally good against Mardu vehicles already. So
Yeah, you don't have to do any tuning for that deck. I mean, I still say that Zombies is obviously a good deck. I think that, I mean, you can only go down. Like, it only go down from here. It has a target on its back. So, like, what are you going to do?
It's a very linear deck with a target on its back, meaning it'll still be good, but it'll fluctuate with the weekends that you're seeing it. And now, the one thing I will say, we have less standard weekends.
Yeah.
A lot of limited weekends coming up too, so maybe that's not true. But I do think this first weekend where you have Jerry T holding up the Tombstone Trophy, like
you're hot off the Pro Tour and like I understand
hot off the grill,
hot out the oven.
Oh, I said grill for pizza. I don't know why I said that.
You can grill a pizza.
You're a weirdo that grills his pizza, but it's
you can't do it.
I wear socks and sandals while I do it. It's wacky.
We should like do a poll to see like out of our listeners like who plays Zombies, like what version they play, and then we can ask them on their results because it's definitely pretty. It's a house divided here on this podcast apparently, and I still think it's fine. If you are going to play Marta vehicles, definitely look into the Blue Splash. Definitely look at Mengucci's article.
Ceremonious Rejection.
Ceremonious Rejection, Metallic Rebuke, very very good cards against Marvel. And I think his list looks really good too. So, if you're gonna play green black, definitely look at the. I would suggest it.
I think you want to be definitely on the aggressive side.
Yes,
of green black.
You would probably want to start with the energy decks.
Ishkana, I thought would be a good choice.
Yeah,
Turns out, it's not very good against Aetherworks Marvel.
Nope, still isn't.
So plan accordingly.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to answer the question to how am I preparing for tournaments to come, because we had a sort of a conversation about this after the end of the Pro Tour. And I was excited about some of the decks, but I am probably not going to play Standard all summer, even with the new set coming out.
Yeah.
So
I mean, locally speaking, there really isn't too much to drive you to do so. You have the Invitational is the only other time, and you could just probably find a deck and play it.
I'm for the most part, when I go to Louisville, I'm selling most of my standard stuff that's going to rotate in the fall.
Time to do it.
I think I'm going to keep this Team Energy deck. I have the bulk of it. I think I'm going to keep that, which obviously most of the lands are still going to be standard base and Glory Bringers and that sort of thing. But obviously, I love Drake Haven still. Obviously, not well positioned against the Aetherworks decks.
No.
I don't know. Aetherworks Marvel is a card that I actively do not like. And I don't want to sound like the guy. Like, I'm not calling for a ban. I'm not saying anything like that. You can call me salty or whatever, but I've said for a long time I really dislike that card. You had a lot of complaints over the Pro Tour, and I agree with them that you had pro players rolling a six-sided die over and over again in front of each other. Flipping a coin.
Well, not literally flipping a coin.
No, we talked. That was the cardboard crack comment. Yeah. Did you see the fixed one where this guy was having nightmares about mana clashes?
Yeah.
But in all reality, though, like you had LSV tell an anecdote on stream where it was like in testing for I think Channel Fireball Ice, they said that like if you looked for more than 5 seconds at your top 6 cards, you weren't allowed to put an Eldrazi into play. Because like there's no reason to think if you hit Ulamog, and there were so many games, like there were a lot of really good games, and then there were a lot of games where it was just like, turn 4, Ulamog, and it was like, all right, I concede, like scoop them up, and that's just not how I enjoy playing Magic. I think that when you look at someone like who said before,
What Shota Yasuoka?
Thank you, Yasuoka, like playing that deck, like it makes me really sad because it means that the control deck with a lot of like difficult decisions wasn't worth it next to the deck that can just like spin the wheel and give you a bunch of cool options. Like, I think we had the argument even in our show chat that it was like, it might have been it's just a card advantage engine, but I don't think it's just a card advantage engine. I think it actively warps the way the game is played. So, don't like it. Don't want to play against vehicles. I want to play against it. I'm not interested in it. I don't want to play Standard again until Battle's gone. I love Amonkhet. I like the set a lot. I'm probably going to draft it a bunch. But we joked about the top 25. There's only one card from Amonkhet that broke the top 25 most played cards of the PT, and it was Dread Wanderer. It was the one drop from Zombies.
It was the 25th card.
It was literally the 25th card. And like you can say like, oh, but Zombies was a new archetype. Yeah, it's playing like 8 to 12 Amonkhet cards, and beyond that you have like Censor. I mean, cast out's not even good enough. This Premier rules, while we were all excited about,
In your
Ulamog
face,
just
Morgan.
destroys it. Well, I'm just saying Ulamog just destroys it. It just does. So I think I want to. I am just so burnt out on Zendikar. It should have been gone already. That
Yeah, it's really awkward because Ulamog shouldn't even be
No.
in the format under the old rotation.
So I think I'm just going to ignore it for the summer for the most part, draft a bunch, and move on. And I'm not saying this like as an indictment on Wizards. We've talked enough about their mistakes with design, but I think like that's what I need to keep myself mentally excited for the game, is to sort of ignore Standard for a while. So that is what I'm going to do.
I wish I could do that.
You only have to do it for this week, and then you can.
That's true.
So, but that's where I'm at. So that's how I'm preparing for tournaments going forward.
Yeah, I think the Pro Tour was definitely like a lot more exciting than it otherwise would have been, if we still had Feldar Guardian. So I don't want to
agree with
criticize.
that. I agree with those changes.
Yeah,
I still think
yeah.
they're just.
I don't want to criticize, but yeah, I feel the same way that you do about Marvel, about how it just takes a lot of skill out of the game, and it's kind of
certainly
sad.
does.
And if you watched, especially on day 2, it was like every single feature match had a Marvel deck on one side, and it was just like the same thing over and over. It's just like,
And,
it's
like,
just, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of people who've accused Wizards of like making like cookie cutters as far as like how decks are set up. But when you watch them go like, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, which buys them infinite time against the aggressive decks, into another activation, into they missed on the Ulamog, don't worry, they'll activate again the next turn, and like you can say like that's inevitability, but that's not what like good inevitability feels like. That just feels like one card and one thing is so overpowered.
All you need to do is if you saw Eric Froehlich's like post match interview when he clinched top 8, or I think he was one of the last people in, so he thought he clinched top 8.
Sure,
but he's just like, oh yeah, I just played a mirror and just got lucky. Cause
yeah, I mean,
that's
what are you
basically what it
gonna
is.
say? You
Like,
had the edge, like you had the edge. No, you hit your Ulamogs.
No,
Yeah,
you can get an
advantage
edge,
bar.
yeah.
You can.
The most hilarious thing was the advantage bar. This Pro Tour,
Swinging
it was like
wildly.
it might have was a little bit of swing that you just push from one side to the other, and it just depend on which way the Ulamog was swinging. So
like I really enjoyed this Pro Tour. I'm glad the format is more open, but Aether's Marvel is going to cause me to not play Standard for a season, and it may just be Battle for Zendikar that's going to cause me to not play it for a season. Like I'm going to make my own rotation.
So
I'm going to time travel to rotation.
So are you saying that you're okay with Marvel if there's no Ulamog
I'm
kit?
saying no, I'm not. I don't. I just don't think I think the way the design on Amonkhet has worked, I think they're in a downswing for power. So I don't see any, like if they're doing it and they're just casting like Gear Hulks and stuff off of it, whatever, it's annoying, but you can interact. When they exile like on turn 4/2 of your lands, you're done playing the game. Like you're done. You're done playing Magic.
Right, because
Plus you have a
what
10/10.
what you're saying is when Zendikar rotates out, Marvel will still be in the format.
But
So you're okay coming back at that point?
I'll be back at that point. I think I'm assuming that there won't be anything as broken as an Eldrazi Titan. Now, of course, if there is. Then what I'm saying is I don't think Marvel's a healthy card, but I don't want them to ban another card in Standard.
Yeah, I don't think they can.
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
So,
that would be.
So I am just going to just not care about it for a little while and let it fix itself, because I don't want Marvel to have to make it butt out of itself again.
yeah, the only thing they could do is just like
Or Wizards. I said Marvel. I don't know.
so like the only other thing they could do is just like force rotation and just make a lot of people angry.
No,
they can't do that.
that's like banning like whole sets essentially.
This will be
right?
the weirdest rotation we've gone through, and I'm okay with it. I need it to happen. I'll be sad. I will shed a tear.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Innistrad block.
Recipes, Shadows of Innistrad block, like
my-
you did.
I'm just saying.
My little buddy.
Literally, it's like literally like it was in the shadows the entire time of
Yeah.
Zendikar block.
I'm sad that we're not going to have a Standard with no Battle for Zendikar block, but with Shadows still in.
Yeah, it's actually upsetting when you think about it, because Shadows was like a really awesome. It had things like it had interesting things that you were doing, and like it never got to exist as being like the premier block.
Right.
It was always just here. It
was
literally
always
felt like
overshadowed.
if you played Constructed Magic, like you had Shadows block, and you're like, oh, here's some cards for all of your Battle for Zendikar decks.
So is Thraben Inspector going to be the best card to come out of that block?
Yeah,
I guess other than Embercold.
Liliana the Last Hope is the best card to come out of that block.
Better
yeah.
than Thraben Inspector?
It literally is it's not $40 because
For
of all
Standard.
Oh, well, that's not what you said.
Okay. Well,
Yes,
rephrase
Thraben
it.
Inspector
Yeah.
is the best card for Standard out of that block. which I think is fine actually. Like to me, that to me is the herald of a good design.
Yeah,
Because I think Draven Inspector is a great card design. Like it makes you play with the ability, the keyword ability they wanted you to try out in the set without being overpowered. It's the kind of card that you can play in so many decks because it's good on turn 1 and still fine when you draw it late because it replaces itself. It just cycles. It's a 1-mana cycler, and before we had cycling, I think that the problem though is that outside of like the emerge creatures, even Innistrad block feels underpowered compared to the Titans. I mean, let's face it, we have Ulamog and Gideon still sort of dominating the format.
Poor Kozilek.
Yeah, he sucks.
Third wheel.
It sucks. No, it's he. That's right, because I did give them actual pronouns.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, not to go back to Thraben Inspector, but like even works well with like the next blocked after with Kaladesh because it makes an artifact. It's just a good design. It's just clues in general really well designed
It
and really
gives you the hope. Oh man, I can't wait for Investigate to come back. That was one of the best mechanics because it's just cycling. Let's just be honest, it's just big cycling.
I was really skeptical of that when it first came out.
So good.
But I was like, I don't know, this seems kind of awkward. You get like a token that's not a creature. It's just a weird. It ended up being awesome, the gameplay and everything.
Also, I think like another card that investigates is Tireless Tracker, which also could give Thraben Inspector a run for money for standard.
Not for ubiquitousness. I mean, Thraben Inspector was in every deck.
I suppose.
It was like, man, mono black, whatever. Thraben Inspector goes in.
I feel like I feel like now is like Tireless Tracker's time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
but we could literally do like maybe it's a possible future Patreon exclusive episode where we just wax poetic about Innistrad.
Yeah,
about Innistrad
the sunsetting of Innistrad.
Or just Innistrad in general.
But that's where I feel about Standard. So like I'm not as negative as I was on it before. I desperately don't want them to ban something again. I just want to ride this out until the next block. So I'm sure Hour Devastation was sweet, and I will try to draft it a bunch, but I'm probably still going to ignore it for Standard.
Oh man, what if Nicol Bolas is really cool though?
If Nicol Bolas is really cool though, then I'm still going to be worried about Marvel after rotation.
Oh yeah, they'll just Marvel into Nicol Bolas next.
Correct.
and then get their thing back.
I hope they're paying attention to that. I really hope they are. Because that one, there's nothing to blame that on. There's no rotation to blame that on. Marvel and Bolas were meant to be in Standard together, and if that's a mistake, well, maybe I don't come back.
So if Bolas is like in any way comparable to the original Bolas, which was like that card was ridiculous. That card, you could get into play.
I cast that card in Standard the second time they printed it and loved every minute of it.
Yeah. I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, that was that tournament we talked about before. Dave told me like he like
Mike, you just got to play good decks, man. Come on.
Papa set me on his knee and was like, "You could be a good player if only you chose better decks." And I was like, "No, Papa, I go in my own way. I will not make shoe like you. I'm no cobbler. I am an artiste." And then I painted beautiful Nicol Bolas pictures in the nude. Does he wear clothes ever?
I don't think so.
Then they're just regular Nicol Bolas pictures.
I don't know. You'd have to see. I'd have to see his Legends card again. I think he is in clothes in his Legends card.
Oh man, I gotta go find that.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh man.
I mean, as far as like preparing for tournaments, so we have Louisville, and that's like the next big thing that I have to prepare for, and it's really going to be like, I mean, I'm going to goldfish my Marvel deck that I borrowed from someone, I guess.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
No, not really. I mean, obviously
there's a lot of interaction.
Obviously, there's some skills to the deck because like the players that did really well with it, like,
yeah,
you look at the people.
They're like really good players. I understand.
Yeah, okay, but yeah. There's that element of it.
He's not wearing any clothes there.
Oh,
he's reading books.
He is reading books.
There's a really cool picture of him in a suit and tie though.
Oh.
He's like a real spiffy.
But yeah, I mean I've just been doing some like testing online, and that's pretty much been what I've been doing as far as that goes. So, and it's usually the best way to go in general, unless you have like a dedicated team that's willing to just like grind games with you, but it's like you won't necessarily have access to all the decks and everything like that. So whatever. But that's just what I've been doing.
I think this will be an interesting tournament this weekend.
It certainly will.
I'm so excited. These team tournaments are great, regardless of what Standard's doing. These tournaments are great.
Yeah, but like even just the formats, right? So you have like Standard, which we'll see what happens, after the Pro Tour.
Yes.
We have a somewhat established metagame now for Standard. We have Modern, a People's format, which is always great. I expect there'll probably be a lot of Death Shadow.
I want to publicly. We've had our issues and our differences on this episode, Morgan. but I thank you for letting me play Modern.
You're welcome. I did it last time.
I needed it.
Yeah. And then we have like a whole new Legacy format that who even knows? There's no more miracles, and we haven't had a big event, right? Or we had one classic maybe? I don't even know.
No, I mean,
we haven't had anything.
This is going to be the first real look at it, I think.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember the last team event. There was just like a ton of miracles. A lot of teams had miracles as their Legacy deck, but we'll see what happens. I mean, yeah, that's a whole new ball game in Legacy now. So. Yeah, I'll be excited to see what happens.
I will too. And we'll be back from Louisville from experiencing it firsthand to kind of give you guys what happened. But that is obviously something that's happening over the weekend. We also have GP Montreal and GP Santiago, which will be standard as well. So we'll kind of see what the impacts of the Pro Tour really have on that large of a scale. So we'll have tons of standard results to talk about next week, which is pretty exciting. I mean, obviously, the team results we'll have to take with a grain of salt, but
we'll see who was right.
Yeah,
we'll see if black white zombies or mono black was better.
I'll probably be wrong. I don't think people will want to sacrifice mana bases. Let's be real here. But I am interested to see what happens over the weekend. I think standard is in a weird spot, and I'm genuinely worried about Marvel just being the next Saheeli Rai combo, just the next best thing you can do in the format. And if that's the case, then that really actually is a bummer, in all honesty. So hopefully that's not the case. I want to be proven wrong. I want the format to be healthy, mainly because I have to play this weekend.
Control's going to make a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback.
Maybe not this
weekend. It's been
weekend.
here for 20 years.
Yeah.
I got to stop doing this. I do it every single time. I'm sorry. I'm very predictable.
We'll see. We'll see what people decide to bring to combat the new top decks within the format. So, but those are the things happening over the weekend. So we'll be at Louisville though. So if you are fans of us, come up and say hi.
Is the Legacy Expo this weekend as well?
That is something that we will have to check. I do believe there is something going on at the shop this weekend at Comic Town.
That's next week.
Okay, I realize I was confused on the date, and I want to make sure we mentioned it because I would have felt bad. Sorry.
Yeah, the Comic Town Legacy Expo is next week, so the 27th at Comic Town.
That's still going to be the current shop, I believe.
Yes.
Because they're still finishing up stuff at the new place. But, okay, I just want to make sure on that because I guess you can watch Legacy this weekend and then go play the Expo next weekend.
There you go, yeah.
And,
see what does well.
And Comic Town's actually having, obviously, their game day this weekend.
That's right, game days this weekend.
21st.
That's what it is.
So you can. I'm sad. I'm
Man,
gonna
Glory
miss
Bringer?
out. I'm gonna miss out on an opportunity to get the full up Glory
Not
Bringer.
if we don't day 2. We will find a store in Louisville to go get Glory Bringers from.
Fair enough.
That is. I will play standard for that.
All right. So those are going to be the events that are happening over the weekend. Both there will be one on the 21st and on the 20th. So and they're going to be standard. Pay out to the top 8 with the promos, and then everyone gets the uncommon promo as well. So
is that the True Heart Duelist?
True Heart Duelist is going to be
that card will see 0 play.
The uncommon promo. And of course, if you want to check out anything else from Comic Town, definitely look for them on Facebook. It's just Comic Town Gaming Center or worldofcomictown.com is their website. We also are sponsored by BCW Supplies. They are actually bringing metagame gurus through the decades for Louisville for their Battling Guru event. So there's more information on that event there should be an event on Through the Decades Facebook page, as well as the Metagame Gurus Facebook page. So definitely check them out, of course, and on BCW Supplies Facebook page. So if you want to battle a guru on your Friday Night Magic, they will be at Through the Decades this week. As far as us, we are available through many different mediums. Two I want to shout out is iTunes. If you can, give us a review on iTunes. It really helps our visibility. And we're also on MTGcast, and that's a great place to find new, exciting Magic the Gathering podcasts. I think they definitely are tons of them on there, no matter what you're into, whether it be limited, constructed, casual, EDH, whatever you want to do. there's a podcast for you on there, so definitely check it out. Also, if you want to contact us, we have Twitter. It's just YourEndStep, and then when you add us, it's at YourEndStep. We also have a Facebook page. It's just at YourEndStep, so do a quick search on there. We also have an email address. It's just at YourEndStep at gmail.com. And like I said, we definitely have a Patreon in the works. We're just kind of ironing out the last few edges, and we'll hope to have it up. I'm hoping by the end of this month. That's genuinely what I'm hoping for. So if there are other ways that you want to contribute to us, then that's going to be an avenue that you can do it through.
I know this is late. Sneak shout out to Ray Perez.
Yeah!
6-0 the drafts of the PT. Top 64. I know Sanders didn't go that well, but I had to give you a shout out because...
he lost like the last 2 or 3 rounds in a row.
Yeah, he was
in top
live
8
for a
contention
while.
for a while, yeah.
But that 6-0 in that draft, that's impressive.
That was nice.
I realized that halfway through. I was like, we should have said this. I'm saying it now. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, we're proud of you.
We got it in.
Yeah, we did.
It was
we certainly
hour
did.
2 or whatever.
It's all right. We're close. We're closing in. We're here at the end, but that's going to be everything for us this week. We'll catch you guys next time, and you have a great one. Bye.